It looked like Ali MacGraw and Steve McQueen were the perfect Hollywood power couple from the outside. A beautiful home, expensive cars, and parties with red carpets. McQueen, on the other hand, was listening in on their talks and questioning her for hours behind closed doors. In 1976, he held a loaded gun to her head for 30 minutes and demanded that she admit to affairs that had never happened. She put on makeup to hide her bruises and told friends they were sorry. Some people didn't believe her when she finally told the truth after many years. They tried to hide the King of Cool's evil side from the public. There were many things in Ali MacGraw's life that she didn't understand. Richard MacGraw, her father, had a hard past that made him who he is today. He was born in New Jersey, but his parents left him when he was a kid. He grew up in a shelter by himself and ran away when he was 16 years old. He moved to the United States after studying art in Munich, but the damage was already done. Ali once said that her dad was always scared and mad. He never forgot how much it hurt him that his parents left him, and it showed in aggressive ways. He would lose it in front of his family. Ali was always afraid of what kind of mood he'd be in. In interviews, she said that he was angry more than once. When he was drunk and angry, it made their house unstable. Ali learned to be quiet early on because she didn't want to start something worse. That fear changed how she would deal with love in the future. She was always drawn to strong men who seemed like they could keep her safe. Frances Cline MacGraw, her mother, had a secret of her own. She was born in 1901 to Maurice Cline and Pauline Donner, who were Jewish refugees from Budapest, Hungary. She hid her Jewish background from Richard the whole time they were married. Frances was afraid of how her husband would respond because she knew he was very racist. She acted like she didn't know anything about her family history. Ali didn't find out the truth until he was an adult. It had been decades since her mother told the truth about who she was. She did this to keep the family together. Before she moved to New York, Frances was an artist and taught art in Paris. In 1939, when Ali was born, she was already 38 years old, which was late for the time. The family was always afraid that someone would find out who she was, which made things more tense. That stress changed how Frances raised Ali. Don't be too honest or too open. It taught Ali early on that it was normal to hide painful facts. There was a high school in Connecticut called Rosemary Hall where Ali was sent. She quickly felt like she didn't fit there. When it opened in 1890, the school was full of girls from rich families. Ali was given the money to go there. That made her stand out. People around Ali's family were talking about trips and country homes, but they barely had enough money to stay alive. Boys from Yale, Princeton, Harvard, and Exeter came to their parties. She was aware that she wasn't a part of that world. She did well in school, especially in art and writing, and was even in charge of some groups. But none of that took away from how poor she felt compared to her friends. She would feel like she didn't belong for the rest of her life. It made her feel like she always had to show something and earn her place in any group. At home, money was always tight. She and her father were both advertising artists, but her dad had trouble keeping a job because he was drunk and angry all the time. Frances had to work non-stop to keep things going and hide the truth about herself. The family moved around a lot and never stayed in one place for long. They moved around a lot in New York, never quite being stable. Ali didn't have a real home or people he would meet again. They had to leave every time she got used to a place. The stress of not knowing what would happen next and her dad's temper tantrums made life feel more like a battle to stay alive than an opportunity to grow. She would say years later that this uncertainty made her look for safety in the wrong places. She fell in love with guys who made her feel safe because she had never had a parent figure as a child. Dick MacGraw, her older brother, went through the same things but dealt with them in a different way. He was also an artist, but the chaos made him feel very bad about himself. Their angry father, their mother's secret identity, having to move, and being poor. It all piled up. Dick once said that Ali had an Irish anger that was always on the back burner. This showed that even Ali had some of that family heat inside her. Ali later wrote in her book Moving Pictures that she felt stuck in a loop because she had to deal with her brother's problems on top of her parents' bad marriage. It made her think of home in a strange way, so she kept picking strong guys who were in charge. I was used to that kind of chaos, even if it hurt. When she graduated from Wellesley College in 1960, she was 21 years old and got a job at Harper's Bazaar for $50 a week. She worked right under Diana Vreeland, who was a fashion icon. Ollie often said that the atmosphere was like The Devil Wears Prada. Ollie was once given Vreeland's coat and told to hang it up like a servant. Ollie threw it back, though. She showed her spirit in that moment, and strangely, people liked her for it. She worked at the same place and learned everything she could from 1960 to 1966. She dressed famous people like Jackie Kennedy and learned how competitive the fashion world is. Those years helped her get ready for what Hollywood would throw at her later on. She became famous all over America after being in the Polaroid Swinger ad in 1965. The video was shot on a beach while Barry Manilow's hit song Meet the Swinger played in the background. Ollie was wearing a bikini and going through the waves. The camera was exactly $19.95, and it sold a lot because of how cute she looked on video. She became the face of the 1960s because of that ad, which led to more ad jobs. Among them a Chanel No. 5 ad. But being famous didn't bring in money. For big ads, she often only got $50, while the shooters and agencies made a lot more. From 1963 to 1967, Allie lived in bad conditions, sleeping on the floor and not having even the most basic furniture. She sometimes stayed with an actor who was having a hard time and his little Scottish terrier named Grounds. That dog was one of the only things that made her feel better. She learned that she needed to be more in charge of her job during these tough years, and acting seemed like a way to do that. In 1968, she got a small part in the movie A Lovely Way to Die, which starred Kirk Douglas. No one gave her credit for her part, and reviewers were harsh. She almost gave up because the reviews were so bad. She said, "I knew I was in over my head when I saw those reviews." She almost quit, but instead she took method acting seriously and started learning it. What she did wrong made her angry. In 1969, just a year later, she had a big break with Goodbye, Columbus, which showed everyone that she did have the ability. She was also going through changes in her personal life from 1966 to 1968. She got married to a Harvard man. But they were married for only 18 months. In the end, Allie said, "We were kids. The only thing we had to say to each other was nice things." She also had trouble with her weight at this time. She had put on too much weight to model, which made her want to play even more. She kept going even though things went wrong a lot during these years. She got back on her feet after falling. Things quickly got out of hand when Love Story was filmed in 1970. The movie was meant to be filmed at Harvard, but there were too many people and reporters there. The large groups caused so many problems that the university had to kick out the whole show. For the last part of the shoot, they had to move to City College of New York. There were photographers everywhere, and rumors spread about Ollie and her co-star Ryan O'Neal. They were both married to other people at the time. Allie later said that they really did like each other. Even the director wanted to leave because the stress was so high. Allie said that the attention scared her. She didn't know how to deal with being so famous. She was one of the first famous people to really be followed around by the press. It changed her view of herself and how famous people saw her. In Love Story, she did more than just play. She pulled from a lot of pain. People who were like Jenny, who was dying, hit home. She used her sadness about her mother's lost artistic hopes to fuel her part. She even spent time with real people who were dying to see and feel what it was like to die. She had to go through that pain every day on set. What you saw on screen was real. Because she was really sad inside. It worked. The crowd believed every tear. But what happened left scars that were hard to heal. On the other hand, Steve McQueen was born in Beech Grove, Indiana, on March 24, 1930. Jack Stephen Terrence was his real name. Life has been hard from the start. His dad left before he was even born, and his mom was still a teen who was drinking too much and working the streets. She couldn't raise him herself, so she sent him to Slater, Missouri, to live with her brother Claude on a small farm. Things didn't get better even there, though. In the end, Steve said that his uncle was mean to him and couldn't take good care of him. Steve had had enough by the time he was 14. He left the farm and ended up on the streets in Los Angeles, where he joined a local gang to stay alive. His rough life had left him with scars that would never go away. He changed the way he acted in real life and on screen because of those early years. He was quiet and angry, and he carried himself in a sharp way. These traits came from the times when he had nothing and no one. Steve joined the U.S. Army in April 1947, when he was only 17 years old. Marines because he thought that the military might help him get organized. There was trouble for him too, though. 7 times, he went from being a private to a private first class and back to a private to a private. It was the worst when he took a weekend pass and used it to go on a 2-week trip with his girlfriend. He fought back when the shore guard came to arrest him. He spent 41 days in military jail for that. He only got bread and water for the first 21 days. In 1949, he was caught again escaping from his camp in North Carolina. This time, he got 30 days in jail and a $90 fine. But he had another side to him, even though he broke a lot of rules. Steve helped pull 5 Marines out of harm's way during a training accident and was praised for it. He got a good discharge from the Marines when he left in 1950. He moved to New York and studied acting with the help of the GI Bill in 1952. He joined the neighborhood playhouse run by Sanford Meisner and learned from Uta Hagen at HB Studio. He did odd jobs, mostly as a plumber, to make ends meet. He also started racing motorbikes, which gave him a lot of fun and extra money. These were important years. He was getting the best advice on how to act. Even though he kept his edge from the streets and his machine skills. All of these things would show up in the roles he played later on. The TV show Wanted, Dead or Alive was Steve's first big break. It first aired on September 6, 1958. He played Josh Randall, a bounty hunter who had served in the Civil War. At the time, $750 an episode was a good salary for him. The show was such a big hit that it ran for 3 seasons with 94 episodes until 1961. During its first 2 seasons, more than 28 million people watched each show. He was a star on that show because of how calm and intense he was, and he was one of the first TV players to do well in films. Steve was known for more than just playing, though. Running races was a part of his life that put him in more danger. 1957, he was badly hurt in an accident at a motorbike race in Lake Elsinore, California. He got better, but it was very close. Then, he broke his left ankle in another bike accident in 1970, just 2 weeks before a big race in Sebring. He went to the race with a cast on his foot, but he was only 2 or 3 seconds behind Peter Revson, who was on the same professional team. That kind of drive made him even more famed. He wasn't just a tough guy on screen, he was one. The Magnificent Seven, which came out in 1960, was one of his most talked about movie parts. Steve kept drawing attention to himself, even though Yul Brynner was the star. He played Vin Tanner. Steve would move around, fix his hat, check his gun or do anything else to stay in the audience's attention while Brynner spoke. Brynner was very angry. He said Steve was rude and tough, and they fought the whole time they were shooting. Steve, on the other hand, did really well. After that part, he made $100,000 a movie instead of $65,000 a movie. That movie helped him become known as the King of Cool. He played Captain Virgil Hiltz in The Great Escape in 1963. The scenes with the motorcycles became famous. The one where the bike jumps over the barbed wire fence is my favorite. Even though stuntman Bud Ekins did the last jump, Steve did most of the ride himself. Steve went faster than 60 miles per hour on a regular Triumph motorbike, not a stunt bike. There were not any safety lines or effects. Everything was real, and things could have gone badly. But that was a part of what made him unique. He wanted to be in danger. Then in 1966, the sand pieces showed up. It was planned to take 9 weeks to film in Taiwan. It went on for 7 months. There were problems all the time. There was bad weather, politics, illness, and even a boat sinking with all the sound gear on board. Steve's tooth infection got so bad that it put his health at risk. He wouldn't go to Hong Kong to get medical care because of a tax disagreement. He even fought with director Robert Wise. Even so, he gave one of his best performances and was nominated for his first and only Oscar for Best Actor. He got paid $650,000 for the part and a cut of the movie's ticket sales. Steve didn't want to be seen as a tough guy during the Thomas Crown affair in 1968. He pretended to be a rich criminal and got a huge salary of $750,000 plus 15% of the income after the business broke even. The two actors made more than that for their work in the Heat of the Night. Steve brought his love of chess from real life into the movie. When Faye Dunaway played chess with a man, the scene was based on a real game from Vienna in 1898. His clothes cost $350, and his watch cost $2,250 from Patek Philippe. He played smooth instead of rough for once, but he still had that quiet determination. Bullet came out later that same year. One of the best-known car chases ever was shot there. Steve drove a strong V8-powered 1968 Ford Mustang GT Fastback. He went through the streets of San Francisco at 140 miles per hour. Real cars driving on real streets was all that was used. There were no computer effects or fake backgrounds. Even though he trained all day at a racecourse, his insurance wouldn't let him do the most dangerous tricks. Still, that scene changed the way films were made about car races for good. The same Mustang sold for $3.7 million in 2020. It was 1971 when Steve met Ali MacGraw. At the time, she was married to director Robert Evans, but Steve was already interested in her. When he came to her house to offer her a part in The Getaway, they hit it off right away. They began shooting in Texas on February 7, 1972, and there was a lot of chemistry between them. Steve quickly began to invite her to dinners on his own. She said she had been crazy about him from the beginning, and they both knew it was going to end badly. When the movie was over, she had already left her husband and moved in with Steve in Malibu. Their affair turned into one of Hollywood's biggest shams. While they were in Texas, away from everyone else, Steve told her everything. Having been left alone as a child made him not trust women, he said. He couldn't stand it when she showed love for other guys on screen. On set, he would get mad. And Sam Peckinpah, the director, had a hard time keeping things in order. There were fights and bottles were thrown. But there was nothing that stopped them from getting together again. By the end of 1972, Steve and Ali had both asked for breakup. It was really painful for Ali. Her young boy Josh, who was born in 1971, was taken away from her. She later said that her biggest regret was not being able to talk to her boy every day. People saw the whole thing happen, which hurt her image. The wedding took place at Steve's ranch in Wyoming on July 12, 1973. But he made her sign a prenuptial agreement before they got married. It said she wouldn't get any money if they got a divorce. She signed it even though her friends told her not to. Steve McQueen didn't want her to work after they got married. She was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood after Love Story, which came out in 1970 and was a huge hit. But McQueen made it clear, none of my wives work. She gave up everything. She turned down the lead part in The Great Gatsby, a movie that she helped get made. It was even worse that she had to turn down a part in The Godfather Part 2, which went on to become one of the most famous films of all time. In her book Moving Pictures, which came out in 1990, she wrote that she quit her job when it was both at its most famous and most lucrative. She did what McQueen wanted and didn't act. She stayed at home. In Malibu, they lived in a $17 million home. From the outside, it looked like a dream, with views of the ocean and direct access to the beach, but it was full of secret cameras that McQueen put in. He did not believe her. He kept an eye on her all day with monitoring and even listened in on all of her calls. Friends stopped calling her because McQueen always answered with a stern, angry voice. She said she always felt like someone was watching her, even in their own home. This began soon after they got married and got worse. Before they got married, MacGraw made a lot of money from Love Story. But McQueen made her put all of that money into shared accounts that he alone could manage. She signed a prenup that said she would get nothing if they split up. She had to ask him before she could buy anything. He kept the movie money from Bullet and the getaway in his own personal accounts at the same time. They split up in August 1978, and she was broke when she left. She lost all of her millions and couldn't get any of them back. McQueen also kept her away from everyone else. He would take all of her calls and choose who she could talk to. Even calling the house scared her friends. One time, she had a simple chat with a male coworker. During their fight, McQueen lost it and smashed the phone. He kept talking. They kept calling her a cheater even when there was no reason to. She later said that these times made her feel like she was being questioned, like during the Inquisition. Over time, she said, she changed into a different person, acting like the kind of woman he wanted her to be when she wasn't. MacGraw had a miscarriage in 1974, just 1 year after getting married. McQueen didn't feel sorry for her. Instead of comforting her, he said that the loss was because of her worry and drive. That was after he told her to quit her job and focus on being a wife and mom. The moment showed how little he cared about her emotionally. It got worse for her because she was already lost and alone. They had more than just mental problems. McQueen got violent in his anger. He hit her hard during a scene on the set of The Getaway in 1972, even though it wasn't in the script. She was shocked she forgot what she was going to say. By 1975, he hit her more often, especially when he was high or drunk. He hit her in public at a Hollywood party because he was angry at her. She used makeup to hide the bruises. When he was angry, he once pinned her against the wall and shook her. Friends saw cuts on her arms that looked like fingers. She told them it was just a mistake. In 1974, while making The Towering Inferno, McQueen began seeing model Lauren Hutton. He didn't try to hide it. His old haunts were still there when he took Hutton there. He even told her sexual things about Hutton and made mean comparisons between them. The film team saw McQueen and Hutton kissing in public on the set. Even though MacGraw was close. He denied it to her when she asked him about it, but he talked about it to other people. He knew MacGraw would find the nude pictures of Hutton that he left in his caravan. McQueen also got her to join him in using drugs. Since 1973, they have been using cocaine together. They would stay up for days at a time. He kept questioning her and recording her answers because he was sure she was cheating on him. After one of their drug binges, a friend found her passed out in the bathroom. As a way to calm down, she began drinking more. A few cups of wine turned into whole bottles of vodka. McQueen kept her hooked and dependent on him by giving her both drugs and booze. Things got out of hand one night in 1976. At their home in Troncos Canyon, McQueen held a loaded .38 pistol to her head for more than 30 minutes. The safety kept going on and off, and he kept putting the gun to her neck and head and telling her she had affairs she didn't have. The people around her heard her scream. In 1971, he did the same things in France with his first wife, Neela Adams. However, MacGraw had the gun ready to fire. After the Manson murders, he started getting guns and said they were for safety, but he mostly used them to scare her. While he asked her questions, he would clean and load them right in front of her. The bullets would then be clicked into place. He had fun with how she felt. She asked him how much he spent one night in 1975, and he locked her out of the house. He stayed inside with another woman, so she had to sleep in her car. Sometimes he would act like he loved her, buy her jewelry, or take her on trips. Then he would make her feel bad again by doing things like making her serve dinner to other women he had over and sitting them at the table instead of her. From 1973 to 1978, he wouldn't let her be in any films. During those 5 years, she lost about $2 million. He called her, read her mail, and told her she couldn't hang out with other actors. In 1976, she had another loss, but he didn't feel sorry for her. He even said she did it on purpose to hurt him. She finally asked for a divorce in 1977, but the prenup she signed in 1973 meant she got nothing. Not even a small $100,000 policy of his life insurance was given to her. She didn't get any land, money, or some of his life insurance. She left her husband after 5 years with only her clothes and no job. She had made more than $1 million from Love Story before she got married. She had nothing left now. When they got divorced in 1978, McQueen began telling lies about her. He told people in Hollywood that she was insecure and tough to work with. Her career was ruined by this. The directors and producers quit calling. People now thought badly of the woman who had won Golden Globes and been nominated for an Oscar. McQueen made it seem like she was terrible to work with and that her marriage to Robert Evans had ended badly. It wasn't true, but it kept her from getting a job. After a while, she said she felt like she had nothing left inside her. The last blow then came. McQueen married model Barbara Minty, who was 25 years old, in January 1980. He was already going to die of cancer. After only a few months, in November 1980, at the age of 50, he died. But by getting married to Minty before he died, he made sure MacGraw didn't get anything. His children and Minty got the $12 million he left behind. She got his personal things, collections of cars, and film earnings. He got nothing from MacGraw, who had given up everything for him. MacGraw had such bad money problems after her split that she had to sell her personal things to pay her bills. People didn't care about her anymore since she hadn't worked in 5 years. No matter how small the part was, she had to take it. She went from having private jets and living in style to barely making it. She drank to deal with things. She said she had reached her lowest point. In 1978, she said in one of her first interviews after the split that she wished she had never married McQueen. She said he was mean and insecure, but she didn't tell him the whole truth at the time. She said he wouldn't let her do love scenes and would question her for hours. She told him that he had a gun to her head once. In the end, they were both cheating on each other, trying to get away from a broken marriage. For him to want her, she said she had changed everything about herself and lost who she was. MacGraw joined the Betty Ford Center in 1986. She thought she was there to help someone with a broken heart, but she quickly found out she had a drinking problem. The doctor heard that she drank a bottle of wine every night. She finally saw the truth at Betty Ford. She said, "My real drug of choice was being in love. It cost $21,000 a month for the care." Her life changed because of it. With her fame and money, she had been able to hide her pain for years. Moving Pictures, her autobiography, came out in 1991. She told the whole truth about how McQueen hurt her emotionally, physically, and financially in it. She wrote that he hurt all the women he met, especially his wives, to show how angry at her he was. She said it was because he was hurt that his father had left him. Some of her friends didn't like that she spoke out, but many women found strength in her story. There was another talk with her in 2018. She had been clean for more than 30 years and was 79 years old at the time. She said, "I wish we had both stayed sober as we got older." She felt both happy and sad when she thought about their love. There were good times, but the pain and drug use wrecked them. She said she was also responsible because she let him act out and didn't pay attention to her own needs. She went to Santa Fe, New Mexico, in 1994. That was the end of her time in Hollywood. She did a lot of yoga, meditated, and helped other people. She started to help animals in need and women who had been abused at home. She told them that Santa Fe gave her peace, room, and chance to heal. After giving up on fame, she began living for herself.